All right, class, it's time for another brief word from me, your instructor. So, at the Potsdam Conference, after German surrender in July of 1945, President Harry S. Truman decides to tell Joseph Stalin that he has an atomic bomb. And there had been a huge debate about whether or not they should keep it a secret. The scientists who worked on the bomb wanted to tell the international community so that there could be cooperation and international enforcement of nuclear weapons. Many of them knew it would start an arms race, and they thought that this could only end in a disaster. But the government, however, decided that this would be too dangerous, and Truman decided to tell Stalin in order to keep Stalin in check. Um, and what's more, Truman did not want Stalin's help in defeating Japan because that would mean that he would have to capitulate more to Stalin's demands. So Truman tells Stalin, "Hey, guess what? I've got this huge bomb," and to his surprise, Stalin already knew about it and didn't really show much surprise. So later on, when the U.S. actually uses the bomb, Stalin was scared to death because it meant that he had lost the upper hand. So he knew that the U.S. was developing this super weapon, but he did not believe that Truman would use it. And it scared him when he actually did. So why did the U.S. decide to use the bomb? This was a huge debate, still going on today. People talk about it all the time. Wasn't there an easier way to defeat Japan that wouldn't involve killing hundreds of thousands of innocent Japanese people? So there were other options on the table. Some pushed for a public demonstration of the bomb to try and scare the Japanese into surrendering. And this was actually what many of the Manhattan scientists thought would happen, but it didn't go over. They didn't think this would work. The government didn't think this would work for two reasons. They thought that the Japanese would not take the bomb seriously, and if they tried it out in front of an international community and the bomb didn't go off, that would be a huge PR disaster, but it would also undermine the U.S. authority in the international politics. So another option to defeat the Japanese was to create a blockade around Japan and limit their food supply. And this was actually a very good option because the Japanese Navy was pretty much destroyed, and blockades are always pretty effective, but it would have taken a long time. A third option was to continue to carpet bomb the Japanese. So all through World War II, the U.S. is just laying waste to Japanese cities, and Japan was actually very vulnerable to air raids. If you've ever been to Japan or seen pictures of traditional Japanese homes and buildings, they're all made out of wood and paper. Not exactly a recipe for repelling bombs. So there was that. They also debated giving Japan an early warning in the hopes of, again, intimidating them into surrendering. And then later on, it was actually discovered that Japan was eager to surrender, but they did not want to surrender unconditionally. They wanted to negotiate a peace. They were actually talking to Stalin about negotiating a peace between the U.S. and Japan. But ultimately, it was decided to use the bomb. Truman did so reluctantly, but he believed it would bring a swift end to the war. And he also, this was another thing that a lot of people don't talk about, well, he took Russia very, very seriously. And if he were to use a bomb on Japan, then that would be an effective way of keeping Stalin and the USSR in check. So this was a very controversial move, and not a decision that was taken lightly. But Truman ultimately said that he would have a hard time addressing the nation if they had known that he had a bomb that could have saved hundreds, if not thousands, of American lives. So again, it's a very controversial move, but there's a little background information for you.